Hello, friends, and welcome. So, today is the second series out of the three about study permits, and today we're going to speak about postgraduate work permit. And today I have with me the true specialists in the experts in this matter, my colleagues Roman Kohut and Ankita Goyal. Hello, Roman, and hello, Ankita. Roman will read now the land acknowledgement, followed by the disclaimer, and then we shall begin.
Thank you so much, Natalie. We respectfully acknowledge that we are on the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam people. And today is Sunday, July the 26th of 2026. The information provided during this webinar is for general, educational, and informational purposes only and does not constitute personalized immigration advice. Immigration laws, policies, and procedures are subject to change, and requirements may vary depending on individual circumstances. So, participants are encouraged to seek professional advice for guidance specific to their situation. And of course, if you're watching this recording after this date, please make sure to refer to IRCC website for any updates.
So now, Roman Kohut is my colleague and my dear friend. He is a founder and principal consultant of Safe Harbor Immigration Services, an immigration consultancy firm that is based in Vancouver, British Columbia. In addition to that, Roman has over 10 years of experience in international education. He is currently working at UBC, which is a University of British Columbia, and previously he worked at the New York University of Abu Dhabi, as well as American Councils for International Educations. Roman holds graduate diploma in immigration and citizenship law from Queen's University, and that's where we all of us met as we were studying together. And Ankita was our professor. Roman also holds Master of Education from UBC. Through his work, Roman helps individuals and families navigate their Canadian immigration journey with clarity, compassion, and confidence. Great to have you here, Roman.
Thank you so much, Natalie. Thank you for that warm introduction. I am so grateful to be joined by my co-host once again, the wonderful Natalie Saad, who is the founder and CEO of Natalie Saad Immigration Consulting Incorporated. Natalie is a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. She's an entrepreneur. She's, of course, as she mentioned, a graduate of Queen's University Faculty of Law. But in addition to that, she also holds a master's degree in international relations and political sciences. Natalie has over 6 years of experience working in the field of immigration. So, drawing on her professional experience in immigration consulting and her own journey as an immigrant to Canada, she helps clients navigate complex immigration pathways with integrity, empathy, and practical guidance. And Natalie is very passionate about empowering newcomers to achieve their educational, professional, and personal goals in Canada. Thank you so much, Natalie. It's always wonderful to co-host with you. And we're so grateful to be joined by a very special guest this week, Ankita Goyal. Welcome.
Thank
Ankita
you,
is,
Owen.
yes, thank you for joining us, Ankita. So Ankita is the managing director of Imigracia Visa Consulting Incorporated. She is an RCAC IRB. She is also an international student scholar advisor at Northeastern University in Vancouver. She also is an adjunct faculty at Queen's University in Ontario. She graduated from the Certificate in Immigration Law Policies and Procedures from the University of British Columbia, where she was a valedictorian. And she's currently pursuing her doctorate at Northeastern University at Boston campus. She is drawing on experience in private practice, higher education, and immigration advising. Ankita supports individuals and institutions across a wide range of Canadian immigration matters. This includes study permits, work permits, permanent residence, and compliance. She's very passionate about empowering international students and newcomers through practical guidance, education, and advocacy. Thank you so much, Ankita, for joining us today.
Thank you, Roman. My pleasure.
You can learn a little bit more about our businesses by scanning the QR codes. And of course, we have our individual emails there if you'd like to reach out, if you have any follow-up questions about this presentation, or if you'd like to book a consultation. Once again, I will repeat myself that information that we provide today is generalized. It is not meant to be treated as personalized advice for a specific case.
So today we are going to talk about the following. We will start briefly speaking about what is postgraduate work permit, what is different between postgraduate work permit from inside Canada and outside Canada. Then Ankita will speak about 5 common mistakes that applicants make when they're applying for their postgraduate work permits. And then later we'll have a Q&A session where we'll ask some very topical questions about the subject. So let me start providing some more details about what is postgraduate work permit, or how we call it PGWP. So all students who were studying on a full-time basis for a duration longer than 8 months with a designated learning institution are eligible to apply for postgraduate work permit in Canada. However, there are certain things you have to remember. And the first one is that you must apply within 180 days of receiving your final grades. And sometimes it might be confusing for some students because when they look at their study permit, they'll see the expiry date of the study permit. But that's not actually where the 180 days should be started from. That's the time when you receive your final grades. And that's a very important point to mention. Then, some students have accelerated programs, meaning that they might graduate within the program, which takes 1 year. They might complete it faster in 8 to 9 months only. And in this case, you will still be eligible for 1 year of postgraduate work permit. The other important thing to mention in terms of the documents and the application fees that you will be submitting when applying for PGWP. So first of all, you should refer to the document checklist, which is IMM 5580, and fill the application form, which is 5710. And of course, go over all the required documents. And since November 2024, it's mandatory to attach your language proficiency results. And a lot of students forget to do that because they thought, okay, I studied in Canada, so maybe it's not mandatory, it's not required. No, it is. So please don't forget about it. And one important thing to mention here, when you're submitting an application in terms of your governmental fees that you're paying, it's not only the governmental fee for the work permit, because you will be holding an open work permit, so you must also include the open work permit fee. So in total, you will be paying the amount of $255. And speaking about your status as a student, in case it expires before you complete your education, or you have like very short time left, what you should do? You should ideally either change your status to the visitor and then wait until your final grades are received and then apply for postgraduate work permit, or you will have to leave Canada and apply from the outside Canada. And Roman will speak more about that.
Thank you so much, Natalie. I really appreciate you outlining all of these steps really clearly, in terms of inside Canada applications. In terms of applying from outside Canada, like Natalie mentioned, if for some reason, you need to apply from outside Canada, you, of course, will also need to follow the visa office instructions in addition to the instructions that are specific for post-graduation work permit. So you will still need to submit your language test results and any additional documentation that the visa office may require. You do have up to 180 days. However, we would never recommend to wait up until the last moment to apply. And different schools, I think, interpret it a little bit differently. So some institutions will say you count these days, 180 days, from the moment when your letter of completion for your program first becomes available. Some schools may say when your final grades become available. And so I think we're really lucky today because we have a subject matter a subject matter expert, joining us today, Ankita Goyal, who can tell us more about the process and what are some of the mistakes that students tend to make when they apply. And I'll pass it on to Ankita.
Thank you, Roman. Thank you, Natalie. Hello, everyone. So yes, as Roman and Natalie rightly pointed out, you need to apply within 180 days from the date either your language test results, sorry, in either you get your letter of completion or your grades are out, whichever is first of the two. And your study permit automatically expires either 90 days from the date your grades are out or you get your letter of completion, or the study permit expiry date, whichever is the earlier of the two. So, in case you want to take the benefit of applying from inside Canada, you need to apply within that 90-day window period or the study permit expiry day window period. Else, you need to apply from outside Canada. And if you do not apply within that 90-day window period, you will be out of status. And then you will have to apply for restoration plus post graduation work permit. It's a two-in-one application and you can apply together, or you can leave Canada and apply from outside of Canada. Or the second option may be that you can change your status to a visitor before your study permit expires. In that case, also, if you change your status to a visitor, you are no longer eligible to apply for PGWP from inside Canada anymore. You will have to send an outside Canada application to IRCC, and once it is approved, you will get a letter of introduction, and then you will have to leave and re-enter Canada in order to get the PGWP at the port of entry. And if your TRV has also expired and you are from a visa required country, you won't be able to re-enter Canada. So you will have to apply again for a new TRV, wait for it, and then come back, which can cost you some time. And then next, I'm going to move on to 5 common PGWP mistakes. So first of all, I think Natalie and Roman did touch base on that, forgetting to attach language test results. I think this is the number one reason we have seen for refusal, that students do not attach their recommended English or French language test results to their PGWP application. Or the second thing is they do not get the desired marks. For most of the programs, like a bachelor's degree, master's degree, or a doctoral degree program, you need CLB 7. And for all non-other degree programs, if you graduate from a college, for example, like in a certificate program, you need CLB 5. So you need to get these desired language test results in order to apply for a PGWP. And students often attach, sometimes they have results, but they do not get the desired language test results. They think they will take it later. After applying for PGWP, they will send it via web form. That does not work. And we have seen a lot of refusals in those cases. Second is waiting too long to apply. So as I was telling, that the study permit automatically expires within 90 days from the date you get your letter of completion, or the study permit expiry date, whichever is earlier of the two. So you need to apply within that window period if you want to take the benefit of applying from inside Canada. In totality, you have 180 days to apply. So if you're not able to apply from inside, you can definitely apply from outside. Okay, then is applying without the required documents. The letter of completion and the official transcripts are two mandatory documents that you need from your institution to apply for PGWP. Many students think because they want to work in Canada, they can apply with unofficial transcripts. So in that particular case, they do not wait for the official documents and just go ahead and apply, which may result to a refusal. Next one is ignoring full-time study requirements and taking an unauthorized leave of absence. So students need to study full-time for all their semesters except for their last academic semester, in which they can have any number of credits and they will still be considered full-time for immigration purposes. So you need to meet that criteria in order to be eligible for PGWP. And if you were part-time in any of the previous semesters, which was not a full-time, which was not a last semester, then you are no longer eligible for PGWP. And then if you take an unauthorized leave of absence, let's say you took a leave, but it was not authorized by your school, then unfortunately your study permit becomes invalid the day you are no longer considered enrolled at your institution. And the studies that you continue doing after that are considered as unauthorized period of study, and you will no longer be eligible for PGWP after that. And then studying in a non-PGWP eligible program, not all the programs are PGWP eligible. So, for example, if you do a program that is less than 8 months, it's a 7 months program, you are not eligible for PGWP. Or if you transfer from a foreign institution to a Canadian institution, but the length of studies at your Canadian institution are less than 8 months, again, you are not eligible. Or taking some general interest courses or English or French as a second language program, these are not eligible for PGWP. So you need to make sure that you are studying in a PGWP eligible program for at least 8 months in order to apply for PGWP. Next, I'm going to pass it back to you, Roman and Natalie.
Thank you so much, Ankita. Thank you very much for outlining this so clearly and, explaining the inside and outside application process intricacies. Of course, highlighting how it's different with a letter of introduction and TRV upon applying from outside versus inside having the PGWP mailed to your address, right? I'll pass it on to Natalie.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much, Ankita. That's a lot of insights, and the students have to always remember about the timelines and deadlines when it comes to specifically PGWP, right? Because there are a lot for them to remember and to consider and things to keep in mind. So let's go to our Q&A section. So we will ask some interesting questions, the ones that usually get asked by the students. So Ankita will answer them. And the first question is, what are some situations where students should seek guidance before accepting employment or changing jobs?
Thank you, Natalie. I think it's a great question. So this is particularly important if the students are going to apply for spousal open work permit because the law changed and only certain students can apply for PGWP if they're working in either tier 0 or 1 category based job, that is any job, or selected tier 2 or 3 category based jobs. So in case a student is working in tier 0 or 1, but they are not sure that their next job is tier 2 or 3, which can, if they're interested in applying for spousal open work permit, that could make them ineligible for that. So they should definitely seek guidance. And also if they're trying to apply for permanent residency later on, it's important that they work in skilled job if they want to apply under, let's say, Canadian experience class. So again, it's very important that they determine the right NOC and take guidance before changing the jobs.
Thank you so much for highlighting that, Ankita. I think if our viewers are confused by what NOC is, right, the National Occupation Classification, it might be worth looking into reaching out to a regulated Canadian immigration consultant, booking a consultation, or trying to sign a full representation if you would just like to white glove your application. We'd be happy to support your journey. Another question that I have is what steps can students take during their studies to prepare for a future post-graduation work permit application?
Thank you, Roman. I think that's another excellent question. So first is that they should make sure that they are always enrolled in full-time studies. They should never work unauthorized in Canada. Then in case they have to take a leave of absence, that should be authorized and if possible less than 150 days. And they should keep all the documentation for the leave to explain it to the visa officer at the time of applying for PGWP. Also, they should make sure that different institutions have different definitions of full-time studies, like the number of credits that are required for being considered a full-time student, and they should not generalize that. I think these are a couple of things that students should keep in mind before to apply for PGWP in future.
Thank you, Ankita. And another question I have for you, are there academic decisions that students should carefully consider because they may affect their future opportunities?
Absolutely. I think academic dismissal and suspension are two such decisions which are definitely going to affect students in future. In case they are academically dismissed, then their study permit is no longer valid and they are out of status on the same day as they are academically dismissed. And that status cannot be restored as well. So in that particular case, student has to actually leave Canada and apply for a new study permit and get a new PAL from the institution to apply for a new study permit. And that could create a gap in the studies. In that particular case, if there is a gap, they should ensure that they are taking an authorized leave for that gap so that tomorrow they can explain this and remain eligible for post-graduation work permit. But again, as they students need to make reasonable progress towards studies in order to meet their study permit conditions as well. So that can definitely impact their post-graduation work permit in future, both the suspension as well as dismissal.
That's really insightful. I think you support all kinds of students from all walks of life. Different, you've seen so many different situations, so really this is so helpful to understand for everyone. Thank you for sharing that. I'm curious what advice you would give students who are approaching graduation.
Thank you, Roman. I think if you are approaching graduation, make sure that your language test results are ready. In case they need, in case they do not get the desired results in the first go, at least they have time to retake the language test results to apply for PGWP. I have seen many students who haven't taken the language test. I mean, who take the language test results and they do not get the desired results, and then their 90 days are over, they're out of status, and thus it impacts them, and they're not eligible to work after applying for PGWP in those cases. And another thing is medical exam in case they think they want to work in couple of professions, like in healthcare, etc., where they are going to be in close contact with vulnerable people or children. They can keep their medical exam ready, and once they're applying for PGWP, they can attach it. And also all the documents required. It's better to start creating the application because on the all online application is valid for 60 days. So if they're closer to graduation, they can start preparing and uploading whatever they have. So by the time they graduate, they get the letter of completion and transcripts, they can upload and simply apply for PGWP.
Yeah, that's true. Another, I think, important thing to mention here, and because we keep always mentioning it, and it's never enough, is the passport validity, right? To
Yeah.
always make sure that your passport is valid for whatever you are applying for, because any permit can only be issued until the validity of the passport. And then if it's only, the passport is valid for the next 3, 4, 5 months, then down the road, you'll have to reapply again. And that's additional fees, it's additional hassle, and you can just avoid it. So the next question I have for you, Ankita, what resources and services are available on campus that international students often overlook?
Thank you, Natalie. I think this is a question I cannot answer enough. Like, students do not know about the resources that are available to them on campus. First is most of the institutions have international student advisors, like Roman is one at UBC. So, like they should contact the immigration advisors at UBC at the respective institutions in order to get the immigration guidance. It's free of cost. They are not paying anything to the immigration advisors. Definitely they cannot represent the client, but that being said, they can still ask them about anything that is bothering them in terms of immigration, but they do not provide individualized advice in a comprehensive legal manner. So in case a student's case is complex, they should definitely seek outside legal advice. And another thing is wellness resources. I think this process is very heavy, and it may create a lot of mental tension for the students. So definitely students can contact the wellness people at the respective institutions to discuss about the mental health resources available to them.
Those
Mm.
are really important things, for sure, for students to know, that there are resources for them, right? And there's a lot of people invested in their success. And thank you so much, Ankita, for highlighting that. My role at UBC as a bit more, I would say right now, oriented towards ensuring that we have our business operations up and running. I work very closely with a team that works at the front desk and on Zoom, supporting students and triaging all the information that comes in. But I think different institutions are different DLIs, designated learning institutions, are
Mhm.
structured differently. UBC is a very large institution, and so we do
Mhm.
have quite a large student population. The advice I provide to students is very general. However, we do have 10 advisors who can maybe go into some of the specifics with students
Mhm.
regarding specific topics like study permits, post-graduation work permits, right? But as Ankita mentioned, things that are outside of scope of colleagues who work at educational institutions would be because if some institutions might not even support spousal work permits, right? Or it really depends on how they're structured and how many resources they have as well. Um, and so I think that ties in with my next question, Ankita, for you,
Mhm.
which is how can students build a strong support network while studying in Canada?
Thank you, Roman. I think networking is the key to success these days. So yeah, I would say like just participate more in events, build connections on LinkedIn, probably invite people for coffee interviews in case you want to learn from them. That will be your biggest support network, even for finding jobs tomorrow. So that is what I think. I would love to hear your and Natalie's thoughts on this one as well.
Yeah, I agree, and I think the network and the friendships that we make during studies, they just last for a lifetime. Just like, me and Roman, for example, we were very close, even though we studied online, but you still can make friends, you can still make good connections, and you can still be the support system for each other once you are out there in the real world, right? And so, in one of your previous questions, you briefly mentioned about the mental health of the students, and we
Mm.
all know how stressful it can be to study in a different country and in a different language, maybe, and to manage your personal life and your studies and maybe work part time. So, what strategies have you seen successful, Ankita, that international students use to balance the academics, the work, and their personal life?
Yeah, thank you, Natalie. I think yes, immigration can be definitely stressful. So to balance thing, immigration does impact their mental health. So to balance, they should ensure that their permits are valid, and if their permits are going to expire, they should start thinking about extension at least 6 to 7 months in advance. And these days, processing times are also a lot. So it's better to submit the application as soon as possible rather than waiting until the very last day and going out of status. If they go out of status, then they cannot study, they cannot work. They It adds to their stress. They have to take a leave of absence, which may impact them in future PGWP eligibility. um, and if they want to bring their spouses and their children, as we already discussed, that they should be working in the jobs that are eligible for those kinds of things. Their work permit should be valid for at least 16 months, or they should be in a program that is eligible for spousal open work permit. Not every program these days is eligible for SOWP. So I think they should think very carefully before taking the next steps, because it can impact them in future.
Yeah, those are really good things to keep in mind, just
Mhm.
to make sure that you're staying on track, and you're successful, not just academically, but also in other ways. And so to get back to your point, Ankita, about a strong support network, I think we had our last speaker, Azelia Kim, who is an international student advisor at UBC, mentioned pick something that you love, right? And once you pick something that you love, you hopefully not just enjoy studying that, but also build the network with those people. So, if for some reason things don't work out with PGWP or with permanent residency, at least you're doing something that you absolutely love and you're not doing that just for immigration purposes. But once again, we've discussed so many different mistakes that could possibly happen, things that could go wrong, that could derail careers or lives, right? And I think it is important to reach out to qualified support in order to get the best advice so that you can move forward, right? You don't have to do it. It's optional. You can do everything on your own. However, there are experts out there in the field who have been working on multiple different cases and advising clients and can support you in your journey so that you don't have to worry about this aspect of your life. Speaking about future after graduation, Ankita, what are some of the most common concerns that students have about their future after graduation?
Thank you, Roman. I think one of the most important concern a student will be having is applying for permanent residency.
Mhm.
As we know, Canada is getting stricter day by day because of the quotas, and they are limited, and students need to meet multiple requirements, and provinces are also changing the requirements. For example, in British Columbia, there was a stream in BCPNP called International Postgraduate Stream, where multiple institutions were eligible and students were eligible to apply directly after graduating. That is now closed. Similarly, in Ontario, they revamped their entire PNP streams to the Ontario Workforce Priority Stream now. So I think students need to be aware of how to meet the eligibility criteria for the streams that they are targeting. Should they move to another province? Should they try for those provincial nominee programs? Or they need to find a skilled job. That is also a very big pressure for the students because time on the PGWP is running, the clock is running. They need to be able to meet like couple of years of experience in order to get the points under the Canadian experience class as well. So I think that job also, getting the right job also adds a lot of pressure for the students. So I think that is another one. And second one is if they have family, they want to bring their spouse and children inside Canada. Again, getting the right job is one of the criterias. Sometimes by the time the student find the right job, they no longer have 16 months remaining on PGWP, so they cannot apply for SOWP. And then or their family's permits are not approved for any reason, and they are separated from their families for a very long time.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's a bit challenging, right? And also, I think we should remember that, choosing the right job is important because also of your express entry of if you're applying for Canadian Experience Class or PNP, what's in demand in your province. And yeah, so these are very hard choices to make, I'm sure, because sometimes you need to have any job because you must support your family, but at the same time, you have to plan the strategy for your immigration, for your PR down the road, you know. And so Roman already touched base briefly on this, but I'd like also to know your opinion about it. How
Mm-hmm.
can students make the most of their time in Canada, both academically and professionally?
Thank you, Natalie. I think, yeah, as Roman said, just enjoy what you love. Sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm right on that one. Okay, enjoy what you love and then do whatever you think is worth doing. That is how you make the most of it. And yes, you need to think about immigration, but it is not the only thing. So as long as you are successful, your career is good, your studies are fine, everything is fine with you. I think that is how you make most of your time in Canada. I'd love to hear your thoughts as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really, sums it up in a nutshell. It's if you do what you love, right, you don't have to, as they say, work a day in your life because you're enjoying what you do. But sometimes, people could take calculated risks, right? Like they could have a plan A and a plan B and just kind of understand what does the job market look like. As you mentioned, Ankita, people tend to want to apply for permanent residency after they have worked on a post-graduation work permit, and with age, they could be losing points, right? And so, like Natalie mentioned, it's important to be perhaps in the right role that might have a chance of being selected through provincial nomination or through perhaps a different program, right? But Ankita, based on your experience, what is one piece of advice that you wish every international student knew before arriving in Canada?
Thank you, Roman. I think it's a great question. I mean, Canada is definitely a land of dreams, but you have to hustle. You have to work hard in order to achieve your dreams. Unfortunately, I mean, things are not going to come to you on a platter. You have to work hard. You have to search for the information. I have seen far too many students tell me, "Oh, I didn't know that. Nobody told me." The onus is on you as an applicant to make sure that you are following the immigration law. Unfortunately, none of the persons know what you are dealing with or what is your situation. So you have to make sure that you research in advance and you come, you hustle, you work hard for what you want. And then I mean, I can give my own example. Like I came in 2018. I started with a job. I mean, just to keep me going while I was studying, and then I made it here today. So I worked hard for what I wanted in life, and then just continue working hard. Make sure you are making the right choices, never breaking the immigration law, and I think one day everything will fall into place.
That's great pieces of advice, Ankita, really. No, seriously. When you think about it, yes, Canada is the country of immigrants, and I say there the sky is the limit. And I don't know anybody who cannot find a job in Canada. Like there are jobs, there are opportunities, and you have just to find the right one for you. But you have to work hard in Canada to achieve something, but just like anywhere else, right? So let's talk about some fun questions right now. Could you tell us some story from your experience working with the international students that has stayed with you?
Thank you, Natalie. Yes, just a second. I'm thinking. Okay, so I'm going back to the days in 2018 when I newly arrived as an immigrant to Canada. So this one story particularly stayed with me. At that particular point in time, international students did not have to meet the language requirements in order to apply for a post-graduation work permit. But this one student, I knew he was one of my colleagues as well. He gave IELTS 13 times in order to get CLB 9 in order to qualify for one of the express entry programs to apply for to apply for permanent residency. And once I asked him that, I mean, it takes like a lot of courage to take that exam 13 times, that how can he keep going after failing so many times in getting the desired score. He told me that Canada is my dream. I'm willing to work hard for whatever it takes. I want myself and my family to come to Canada. It was, I think, a very, very motivating story for me. At the end, he did achieve the desired score. He did get permanent residency, and today he's a citizen. I think, yeah, this story forever stayed with me. It told me that yes, no matter what, we should never give up. We should work towards our future, building our future, building our dream. And I think it showed me persistence and resilience can get us where we want to go. So for all the international students, if you're struggling, just hang on there. You will achieve your dreams. Just be persistent and stay consistent, and you will be where you want to be one day.
Wow, that's really inspirational, Ankita. It does sound like 13 is the lucky number for some people, but you have to, like you said, work hard, right? And
Yeah.
it's a good thing that this person was so passionate and they really saw themselves here and it helped them to achieve that, right? And I think, but in retrospect, I think, I wonder if there would be other tests, right, that this person could take because there are options. It doesn't have to be IELTS, right? Like it could be maybe a different test, and they are all scored similarly, but there is different differences between the tests. One is, I would say Commonwealth accents, whereas the other ones could be North American accents, and there's differences in grading and scoring the spoken part, right? The different sections. So I think it's really important to maybe talk to an immigration consultant and see which one might be right for you. What would be your kind of strategy for your path to success?
Mhm.
But never give up. I really like that Ankita mentioned that. Ankita is also a mentor with CBIE. Um, it's Canadian Bureau for International Education for those of you who are not in the biz of higher education. And so I think I've been lucky to have her as my mentor, and I think she really does motivate not just me but a lot of people. I think times can be challenging, times can be tricky and hard, and there's competition always, right? But it's important to stay motivated and to be connected to wonderful colleagues who are experts in different areas and who also have gone through different experiences, right? Who can share their wisdom and their insight and their motivation. And so we've shared a lot of knowledge today with a lot of different viewers. I think mainly interested in PGWP applications from inside, applying from inside or outside Canada. Hopefully, they will not make any of the mistakes. However, again, just to reemphasize, this wasn't personalized advice. So please make sure to consult with somebody who is licensed before you submit your application in case you have any questions. And just one last question for Ankita before we close up. If you could give every international student one tip in a single sentence, what would it be?
Okay. Um, just hang in there. Your time will come, and then work hard for your dreams.
Wow, that's a really good one. I think, hang in there and your time will come, right? Like what's meant for you shall not pass you, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes.
I agree with you. So, on that note, we're really grateful to you, Ankita, for taking the time out of your Sunday, a beautiful rainy Sunday here in Vancouver, to join us. Thank you so much. And thank you to my wonderful co-host, as always, Natalie. I hope there will be many more of these sessions where we collaborate with wonderful colleagues who hold the knowledge in specific different areas of expertise and can share with our viewers. So thank you so much to both Ankita and Natalie for this.
Thank you guys for having me. I truly enjoyed this, and I'm grateful to you guys for inviting me to this.
Thank you.
It was our pleasure and our honor to have you, truly, Ankita. Thank you very much for joining, and thank you for all your insightful comments and all the information you provided. It's invaluable. And thank you very much, Roman, as always, for arranging this. You've been a great host, and I'm looking forward to hosting next week the third and the last of this series, part of our study permits discussions.
Thank you, Natalie. Bye bye. Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.